Actor versus model custody battle spans 4 continents in 10 years. In a custody battle that has spanned 4 continents and 10 years, an American actor has orchestrated a custody battle from hell against a Czech model. A whirlwind romance resulted in the birth of their son, but the relationship soon ended. On the way out, the actor father told the model mother he would take their son and destroy her, the one promise she says he kept. And so he began the battle when the boy was just an infant. This story is an incredible example of a custody crisis case, in which a father files 11 times for bogus restraining orders. The mom flees internationally 4 times, a Hague proceeding, an asylum application, and a police raid. Like so many women, this mom found out the hard way that neither the family court system nor Hague intermediaries do what is in the best interests of children, and in fact, both exist to aid and abet fathers in maintaining control after divorce. This poor mother could not have known ahead of time that family court is rigged against women, because the word has not spread far and wide enough. You can help get the word out by sharing her story and joining us in demanding a new system. We will discuss aspects of her case in the context of the custody crisis in the takeaways below, but first her story. Teresa was born in the Czech Republic in 1993. She began modeling as a teen with major brands, including Guess, Lululemon, Apple, AT&T, and Old Navy. She's also done some bit acting parts and has appeared in numerous commercials. She loves to travel around the world and engage in all kinds of adventures, some of which she shares on her Instagram, Teresa Kacharova. Teresa met and began a relationship with an American actor. Not long after she got pregnant, but they didn't marry. She went home to Czechia to give birth, where both her parents are pediatricians. Shortly after Luca was born, their relationship ended, badly, due to his emotional abuse. In classic abuser fashion, he said he was going to take Luca and destroy her. He filed his first motion to do just that when Luca was 3.5 months, still a nursing infant. Teresa said, "Ever since Luca was only 3.5 months old, his father has been trying to rip him away from me. He even told me in writing he would drag me through court until I had nothing left." She says that was the only promise he ever kept. Shortly after their breakup, Teresa fell in love with the famous musician, Avicii, who is portrayed in the Netflix documentary, Avicii, I Am Tim. Tim loved playing the role of a stepfather to Luca, and they talked about having their own children. But he struggled with anxiety and depression, worsened by fame, and ended his life in 2018. Of course, Teresa's ex used her grieving the relationship as the basis of one of his constant motions to take custody from her. Thankfully, that one did not work. But that did not deter. He continued to take Teresa to court countless times, all for bogus reasons. Despite his obsessive efforts, she amazingly managed to retain 50-50 custody until last year. At some point, they moved to Austin, Texas. In the years leading up to 2024, her ex constantly made allegations that she was some version of mentally ill. This included the usual, unstable and bipolar, but with a new one, erratic. She went through 2 evaluations that concluded she was not mentally ill, nor a danger to Luca, but that did not deter him from asking for another evaluation with a psychologist he wanted, i.e. could bribe. In December of 2024, her ex finally got a judge who went with the program full force, Judge Daniela Little. Of course, she had corrupt court appointees who aided in the switch by finding her both mad and bad, i.e. unstable and coaching alienating. Frosting on the cake was the father's attorney reportedly making large contributions to Judge Little's campaign fund, a common tactic in states where judges are elected. But neither appointees nor bribes were necessary. She already knew what she was going to do, and it had nothing to do with facts or evidence or law. She granted the father primary custody with traditional visitation to Teresa. To further cement the father's control, Judge Little prohibited Teresa from taking Luca to a doctor or therapist and from going to his school. She also, incredibly, prohibited her from speaking Czech with Luca, which is likely not legal. Another huge loss was the denial of first right of refusal. Instead of Luca being with his mom when his father was out of town, which was a lot, he would be pawned off to his parents, who Luca said are mean to him, but also to male friends, one who has the nickname Creepy. Luca deteriorated rapidly after the custody switch, coming back to his mom with circles under his eyes, bruising and wetting himself. He was experiencing great distress at having to spend so much time with his father and so little with his mother, where he wanted to be. So Teresa filed a motion for modification, with the evidence Luca's health and well-being were being endangered. Within days, the father interfered by getting a friend to report harassment, after which Teresa was arrested. Once again, he filed another motion, this time to restrict Teresa to supervised visitation. When that was denied, he filed again, and then it was granted. She would have to be supervised with her precious Luca, even though there was no evidence he was in danger with her, and plenty he was with his father. It was a not-so-transparent attempt to silence them both. Teresa knew she would have no way to even attempt to protect Luca while restricted to supervised visits. So she fled home to Czechia, believing her native country would protect him. A Hague case was filed. Brave Luca even testified in person against his father, as well as to a psychologist and guardian ad litem, Gal. But his testimony about abuse and mistreatment by his father was ignored. Despite the clear exception to the Hague Convention, in which a child should not be returned to an abusive parent, an order was made for his return to his father's sole custody in Texas. But Teresa was not about to give up. She fled again, this time to South Africa, planning to file for asylum. Interpol, International Law Enforcement, was alerted and issued a yellow notice, which is for missing persons rather than dangerous criminals. But her ex was able to track them down himself. He succeeded in sabotaging the asylum process and enlisted local police to secretly plan and conduct a raid. 4 cars surrounded her place, while 8 police officers in tactical gear descended upon her place. Luca clung to me, sobbing that he was afraid of his father and what he would do to him, but he was told to be brave, ripped from my arms and handed to the very man we had fled. Poor Luca was kicking and screaming for Teresa, while being forcibly dragged away from her, straight into the clutches of his identified abuser, who was there to ensure the capture. The lengths some fathers will go to get revenge and maintain control over women and children. Here are some excerpts from an open letter Teresa recently wrote, which a Czech media outlet published. I have been systematically criminalized for trying to protect my son, and after both Texas and Czech courts failed us, we ran again. This is about a child in danger and a violation of basic human rights. I have turned to all the institutions I could have, but nothing has helped. It's about endangering a child and violating fundamental rights, guaranteed not only by the Convention on the Rights of the Child and the Istanbul Convention, but also by the European Convention for the Protection of Human Rights and Fundamental Freedoms. They accuse me of coaching every time, at every hearing, without a single piece of evidence. No judge has ever cared about Luca. So I'm going to make it public so people finally start to see him as an individual who deserves a happy and peaceful childhood, not just a piece of meat the father automatically has access to. I feel like I was in the twilight zone. The easiest way to destroy justice is to silence those who expose the truth. And we will not be silent. Not me. Not Luca. Takeaways. It is amazing that Teresa was able to keep her child for nearly 10 years after the father began his campaign to take him. This may be because they are both public figures, or because it took that long to bankrupt her, since she had a lucrative career. Judges are fond of throwing moms crumbs and stringing them, keeping them hoping and believing there will be justice and their children will be protected. Note that if a mother had filed as constant and numerous motions as this father has, she would have been declared a vexatious litigant. But he was allowed to continue to legally harass her over the course of 10 years, causing tremendous strain, expense, and trauma, with zero consequences. That is the FCMO, Family Court MO, torture and bankrupt the bitch for daring to challenge male entitlement. There were many judges in this case who ruled against Teresa. Most or all were women. Some will say that means the crisis is not due to discrimination against women or male entitlement. But women who benefit from the patriarchy, especially judges, are doing the old boy's bidding because it gets them power, kudos, and promotions. They are, despicably, selling women out and harming children for their own gain. The Hague Convention was supposedly created to keep abusive, controlling fathers from abducting children internationally. But, surprise, surprise, it is mostly being used to help abusive, controlling fathers return children to them after mothers flee to safety. There is a clause in the convention that if there is a grave risk, children should not be returned. However, Hague judges do the same as family court judges. Ignore the evidence, lie by commission or omission, and abet the father. Just as was done in Teresa's case. So fixing the convention won't make a difference. The problem must be fixed at the original jurisdiction level. All in all, Teresa bravely fled to 4 countries on 4 continents, attempting to find peace and safety for her and her baby: Mexico, Thailand, Czechia, and South Africa. So the most important takeaway from her case is that there is no north for women, no place in the world where mothers can escape subjugation and persecution by family court and the theft of their children. So, the only way to end this abomination is to remove custody cases from family court. Join us in demanding a new system in which judges do not have the power to take and endanger our children. What's next? It is not clear whether there are outstanding criminal charges against Teresa for kidnapping. Hopefully not. Back in family court, another temporary restraining order has been issued against her. It is not known whether she has supervised or any contact with Luca. There will likely be a hearing on the TRO and custody modification hearings to establish some sort of contact with Luca. If you'd like to support Teresa by attending hearings, contact Women's Coalition on NTL at gmail.com and your info will be forwarded to advocates. You may also support her by signing the petition, Help Bring Luca Home, Protect a Child from Legal Abuse and Forced Separation. Thanks to Hague Mums for providing information on this case and their advocacy on so many Hague cases. Watch this space for updates, and you can follow her on Instagram. In other news, the Washington father who murdered his 3 daughters in June has been found dead. The manhunt involved several local and federal agencies and spanned 3 Washington counties. It even led authorities to Canada and Mexico. Yet his remains were found less than a mile from the campsite where he murdered his 3 daughters. The cause of death cannot be determined because of the deteriorated nature of the remains, but he has likely been dead for a long time, possibly since shortly after the murders. He had been granted unsupervised visitation over the strong objections of their mother. He used this entitlement to wreak revenge. For more information about this case, read our column, Manhunt On for Father Who Murdered 3 Daughters. Rest in peace, Evelyn, Olivia, and Peyton. Chapter 2 of Everything is Going to Be Okay by Samantha Baldwin is out this week. This novel is about yet another mother caught up in her own family court nightmare. In Chapter 1, Mandy is out celebrating her newly minted post-grad degree in marketing when she meets Damien and begins a whirlwind romance. When they move in together, red flags begin popping up, like his propensity for partying, unexplained absences, his odd family, and difficulty connecting on anything but a superficial level. Despite misgivings, she says yes when he asks her to marry him in grand fashion in front of the Taj Mahal. You may access all published sections anytime at Women's Coalition News and Views on the top menu bar, but be sure and subscribe and you will receive them in your inbox, free to subscribe and no paywall. Sequential sections of the novel are released every Wednesday. Be sure and subscribe to get them sent to your inbox. And that's it for this episode of Custody Crisis Stories. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share so this important information is spread far and wide. We are uniting to end the crisis. If you're able and would like to contribute to our important work, the information is in the descriptor. Thanks and see you for the next Custody Crisis story.